this song, because Bella Ciao is a song which is, like I said, the representative of a culture. Not so long ago, during the pandemic, Bella Ciao was even played through the speakers of a mosque in Turkey. I have the recording of it.
Wow.
So now there is a really weird alliance here that we are assisting.
Yeah.
On one side, we have the
assassination, but hello everyone, it's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined once again by Leo Zagami, the Illuminati, revealer, Confessions of Illuminati. So you definitely revealing every time he comes on a show. I talk to people from behind the scenes that give me little bits and pieces of intelligence. When Leo comes on, it's an explosion of intelligence, and he's not hiding it. It's amazing. So Leo, so glad to have you on again. Now you've done a couple articles. There was one on the bullet that the shooter of just recently, the assassination that happened. I had YouTube come in and take down a video that I did on that, so we'll kind of be careful how we talk about the recent assassination. But and also
why did you take it down? I mean,
they said it was hate speech. All I was doing was just revealing information, and that's pretty. Somebody's controlling the narrative, as we know, and that's kind of the way we try. We're the narrative destroyers, and that's why I love to have you on. But hate speech. I guess Pam Bondi came out and said that anyone that goes after, I guess, the narrative of Charlie Kirk and his death is going to get a visit by the DOJ, or they're going to come after them.
Well, but I mean, it doesn't really look like you will be the typical guy, because you are not really a leftist or somebody from that side of the fence. So it really is more to do probably with YouTube and with this. In the last few months, has mentioned more than once the Sabbatian Frankists, and I was pretty surprised. Candice was also a friend of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Instead, Nick Fuentes went yesterday on X and said, "Oh, she talks about the Frankists. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She wants to take the skin of Brigitte Macron, like in Silence of the Lambs, and become, a serial killer of sorts." I mean, Nick Fuentes is completely insane. He's an individual.
Wow, what happened? It's crazy.
It's completely insane. So, Bella Ciao. I managed to put on my phone without him knowing, calling a friend of mine and saying, "Record what you are," because I didn't have a recorder on the phone I had there. It was like they left me just an old phone I could call from, So I called my friend, and he recorded it. He recorded them playing Bella Ciao first thing in the morning, every single morning. It was like, I explain in volume 11 of my Confessions, mind control and how it works. My father also even worked with MK Ultra in France. So, I mean, I had also direct experiences from what he told me about their experiments and everything else. But the crazy thing of having this Bella Ciao played, and it was really like he was laughing while he was playing it, this doctor. You imagine you having a doctor wearing a white thing, coming inside and playing it like just to trigger you.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
I went through prisoner of war training in the military, and they played over and over songs like that when we were in our little it's
like what I explained with Guantanamo Bay. In volume 8 of my Confessions, I also explained that. And in volume 8 of my Confessions, I specifically talk about Bella Ciao, and I talk about Giuseppe Nicolò, the professor who works also with the Vatican, who is a member of the Tavistock Institute, who conducted this torture, because it was torture.
Yeah.
I eventually, through lawyers and everything, managed to get out of there. I eventually, thanks to my faith, saved myself, but also thanks to the help of a doctor called Dr. Vento, who basically told me, "Leo, just politics is off limits now in Italy, because as soon as you go back into politics, they're going to lock you up.
Wow.
So I said, okay. And like a couple of weeks from when he said that, I took a plane with my wife. We came here to California in 2014, and I managed to meet through Sean Stone Brad Olsen. I published my first books in the English language. I had to go back to Italy. And in Italy, the persecution continued by those people who love Bella Ciao.
Wow.
So for me, Bella Ciao represents everything that is wrong in this society today. First of all, because the song was never sung during the war. It was not a resistance song. It's an artificial construct. It's BS. It's propaganda. This song came out in the 60s. And it should be simply treated as a piece of propaganda. It worked out for the Italian left.
So it's almost like they're trying to push this as that narrative. Of course, Mussolini was captured and hung in the square with fire. And so it was okay to kill him because he was a fascist. And that's what they're trying to do now.
But not only, because then in one of the other casing, it was written "catch a fascist," and then you have also the transgender words in favor of the transgender ideology. It's that's
what Hitler did. He used the brown shirts to get into power, and they were run by homosexuals. So he killed all the homosexuals, saying, "Oh, they're homosexuals. You're just going to kill them off because they're homosexuals." So
what happened was this: Hitler used those homosexuals until the night of the long knives, whatever it was called, in which he killed them all. But he used them.
Yes, like the transgenders are being used. Yes,
he used them until he could, he didn't need them anymore.
Right.
And so this is going to happen with these people. I mean, if one day they don't need them anymore, they will be simply taken out of the picture. So what is happening here is very clear. We have a reference, and more than one reference, that this is a guy who was brainwashed with the leftist ideology. We also know that his companion was a transgender. We also know that he was active in internet forums with other people who were transgenders. Now, everything that is happening at the moment is simply, they are investigating how much those people knew before the event. And apparently he even had a note that was left at this transgender's home. But the crazy thing about it all is the Pope Leo XIV. And that's really goes back to what I written in volume 12 of my Confessions, because as you know, one of the protagonists of my latest book, which is the last of my Confession series, is Father James Martin, the head of communications almost of the Vatican, because he's the editor of America, the Jesuit Review, and he's the one who has arranged at the beginning of September this pilgrimage of LGBTQ plus whatever and their families to Rome.
Wow.
In which he brought them to the Pope, he brought them around Rome to all the various Jesuit churches. And this really makes you understand also the evil, because Father James Martin, when there was the killing of that other transgender who went and killed those two innocent kids and injured many others at the opening of the school year in a Catholic school, Father James Martin on his X account simply tweeted that two kids were killed, and peace be upon whatever, peace and love, whatever. But he was not even commenting. He actually retweeted these two they were killed, two Catholic kids, without mentioning that the guy responsible was another transgender pervert fueled with demons, who even draw in his manifesto of sick and twisted, because they have each one of these transgenders, usually when they kill, and they can be men or they can be women. We saw him in the schools. They make manifestos who usually are covered the less possible by the media. The media tends to hide the manifesto of these assassins, okay? Because it will expose this sick woke ideology for what it is. So James Martin, instead of apologizing, of saying we have a problem in the LGBTQ whatever community, transgender community, he went to the Pope with nonchalance, and after not even a week from the killing that happened there, he just said on X, sorry, I'm not going to be much on X, I'm going to Rome now, and we're all going to be there. And he's very flamboyant himself, Father James Martin. And he was immediately received by Pope Leo as soon as he arrived in Rome. And then, of course, he did because this year is a jubileum year. So people, Catholics are kind of obliged to go to Rome on pilgrimage. And he has organized this big pilgrimage of sodomites and transgender and whatever. Now, I don't have anything against gay people necessarily, but the problem here is that you need to admit that there is a problem in your community. And if you don't do it, then it becomes a little bit suspicious, because we know that the Jesuits are themselves on top of this pyramid of manipulation. At a political level, they are the ones who have also encouraged the open borders, and they have condemned over and over again people like Tom Homan and what Trump is doing for America by finally having the decency of saying, that's it, we had enough with these open borders and these policies that are obviously ruining America and making it more unsafe. However, we have also another problem. Suddenly, with the killing of Charlie Kirk, it seems like it disappeared from the discourse nationally, both left and right. Nobody's talking anymore about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we know that Charlie Kirk definitely was somebody who was not, he wanted to be always honest and transparent. He might not have been always super informed about everything, but Charlie Kirk was an activist who also liked in his shows, his podcast, his radio show, TV show, whatever he did, he liked to discuss things. And he was actually very much interested in the evolution of this whole Epstein thing. Because, something strange has happened. It's almost like by going after Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they got too close to something that can't be touched. And we discussed this also in our last show, no, Michael? Mm-hmm. In regards to the Sabbatean Frankenstein, in regards to what... and there is definitely a lot more that will come out, hopefully soon, that will clear up maybe. But it seems like when it comes, after seeing those ladies, those victims in front of the Congress, people like Major Taylor Greene siding with them, and now suddenly, after what happened with poor Charlie, it's almost like it has evaporated in thin air. What is your thought about that, Michael?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are very suspect as far as like there's funding seems to be coming from Democrat Party for this Tyler Robinson. They've been pointing that out. Ocasio-Cortez is involved with this Democrat funding group, also Mamdani. So who would benefit from Tyler Robinson's actions? So you have to look at that. And
it's almost like we go back to what I said earlier. You have you have this terrorist because I simply called Tyler Robinson a terrorist maybe of it, who was brainwashed by his transgender partner. That seems pretty obvious. His family was a MAGA family, was a family of patriots, of people who love this country, who actually they broke with this transgender, who hated them because this transgender instead supported Joe Biden, of course. But in a pyramid of manipulation, where do they stand? Tyler is not the guy on top, obviously. There is other people who have been obviously triggering these people. And we have, of course, the example of a whole book I made, volume 11, triggering these people with complex psyops, complex mind control operations. Is part of what what came out of that whole experiment with MK Ultra that went on from 1953 to 1973. Actually started even before with Artichoke, Blue, and other projects that were conducted before. Eventually they came out as MK Ultra in 1953, and from that moment onwards they experimented in various ways. They experimented with subcultures, with drugs, with this, that, and all the other. So today we have the internet, and in fact, when the leftists now want to defend themselves, they simply say that Tyler Robinson was a victim of the internet, a victim of what he found on these forums online, these gamer places like Discord. That is, of course, the excuse.
Right.
When instead, it's pretty clear from going back to Bella Ciao that this is instead part of a much wider terrorist network, Antifa, financed by Soros, and they might get away with it. They might get away with it because it's so compartmentalized, this whole thing, that in the end, yes, me and you or many others on the internet can come out with many theories. The guys who were giving strange signals before the shooting, this, that, and all the other, the forums online, of course. Now the FBI is investigating, but it's very difficult to then really wage war against Soros. It's not simple, because Soros, and I'm talking about both Alex and his father, have so much stuff against people like Clinton, Obama, and all the others, that they hold their Congress and the White House in their pockets, even with Trump there. They're still so powerful. And that is the problem here. Yes, Trump, if you remember, not so long ago, before all this happened, mentioned Soros and the fact that he wanted to go after him. But we have to be very honest here. Going after Soros is almost a little bit like, here, Michael, I remember our last conversation when we discussed also about our friend Nino, who, by the way, I will be on his show soon, so we will be discussing things with Rodriguez a little bit. But did anybody arrest Obama?
No. I mean, you're right so far. So, he's not been. So I guess the bet's still open.
No, but the thing is not being right or wrong. The thing is that these people are untouchable.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there can be some threats from one side to the other, some vocal threats, yes. Trump saying this, Obama says that. But it's kind of like we are assisting to a theater play in which no real action is going to be taken between the actors who are in the theater play, because it's a play. They can't be, and we are, unfortunately, the spectators, the ones who are saying, oh yes, that guy, yes, he's gonna get it. Who he's gonna do? I don't think so. And it's think about, like we had in the last few days, Saturday, an historic event in London. And of course, millions of people. The left says 100,000, but of course the left, it's like millions, 3 million, they go down to 110,000. But aside from the numbers, I know London. I lived in London for 10 years. I know this town. My mother is from London. I know when the streets are full, how many people they are, because it is almost like my second home, London, after Rome. So I saw these people marching. I saw what is happening in England. And I know that if it gets too dangerous for the system, they have already a way out. And you know what is the way out, Michael? Send them to war with Russia.
There you go. And they've been talking about that quite a bit. So that's one reason why people really should rise up and push back on this. Now, this one, Tyler Robinson,
push back. Yeah.
So we know the colleges, as we're seeing now, are indoctrination centers for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But let's not forget that Trump is on his way to visit King Charles, who is a closet Muslim, who is himself responsible for this state of things in England, where most of the cities of England are now in the hands of Muslim mayors. Wow. Every single major city in England, and I'm not saying only London or Birmingham, it's a Islamic mayor. Wow. So here in America, we have 6 million. I spoke about it, as you know, in volume 10 of my Confessions. We have approximately between 5 and 6 million Muslims. And they are starting to show what they are by taking over whole cities in places like Michigan. Both the Sunnis and the Shia has taken different cities, and they are now becoming more and more threatening towards the Christians that are becoming a minority in these cities. Yeah. And this is just to give you an example, because we have a bunch of them also here in California. We even have 300,000 of them in Texas. We have a bunch of Muslims present here in America who will, of course, greet you with peace and love, peace be upon you and love Allah and all the rest. But in reality, once they become the majority, they start imposing their Sharia, their rules. And of course, Tommy Robinson has sacrificed all his life for this cause. Mm-hmm. I don't care what Nigel Farage says about him. I think that Tommy Robinson, he might be the typical English bloke or lad, however you want to call him, from the states there, from the poor, let's say from the poorest part of England, the council estates, how they call them, and he is, though, very much loved in England at the moment. He has a large following. Also because he has passed how many years he has spent in prison, sacrificing his own life like a true political martyr to the cause, just like Charlie became a martyr. Robinson is on his way to become one. I hope he never gets killed, but that is a possibility. The fact that now Trump goes to visit Charles, and he doesn't visit Tommy Robinson. The fact that we have Prince Andrew involved with Epstein.
Yeah.
The fact that, and I'm sorry to say that because Trump does a great things also for this country, but they are all compromised. Every single one of them, left, right, center of the political arena, they are all compromised.
Wow. So you're moving that direction. So I know that there's
It's not a question of me moving. We are moving as a human species towards a situation in which, of course, I realize that, for example, Elon Musk has said very, he said we have to fight, otherwise, that's it. You have to fight, But everybody seems to have a level of compromise in this fight. And so, yes, we are drawn into this theater, like we said a moment ago, of politics with actors playing their roles. But it's very difficult that we really get to some real change that will affect us positively. And it's sad. I mean, the thing that I can confirm is positive about the Trump administration is, of course, the security against the crime, these illegal immigrants. I mean, we are talking here about visible changes. I mean, in Palm Springs, where I live, every evening we had 3 or 4 robberies. Now we don't have even one. We had shootings almost every night at one point under the Joe Biden administration. Now I never hear a gunshot. These are concrete changes, and I thank the president for making that possible.
Yep.
But I would like to also have maintained the other promises. And the Epstein case was on my priority list. And if it affects powerful people and donors of Trump, I don't care. So people need to be a little bit more objective about this whole farce that we are living around us. Everybody's compromised from A to Z. And there is a level of compromise in each one of the people who are in charge of other people. Otherwise, they will probably not let them, you will not even be allowed to vote if that was really something that will change drastically the situation. You understand what I mean here?
Yeah.
It's sad, but we have to be honest, And so I always try to bring, Charlie Kirk was somebody who was bringing change in the universities. Now, since the end of the 60s, as I also explained in my book, the universities have been plagiarized and have gradually become recruiting centers for this leftist ideology, and that's it. You can't have anything else on campus. When I arrived here in 2019, I want to say which university, but a University of Northern California, very big university. There were some guys who invited me there to do a speech. I was organizing myself. I was looking forward to it. After a month, they came back to me and they said, we don't have the security. We can't risk. We had too much criticism on campus to have you on. And so it was canceled. Charlie was trying to do something really positive with his Prove Me Wrong tour. The fact that you can finally bring a dialogue. But it seems that, unfortunately, the right, the conservative faction wants to dialogue. The other part doesn't want to dialogue. They have their mind set. Leo Zagami is a fascist, Trump is a fascist, the other guy is a Nazi, the other guy, Elon Musk is a Nazi, the guy is doing everybody's an extremist, and they are the great ones. It's insane. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We are honoring today, I think, with this show also the memory of Charlie Kirk by really being honest about everything, about the fact that, everybody now, even Israel with Netanyahu, wants a piece of Charlie's legacy. But we know that Israel is compromised because the very foundation of Israel was compromised. And it's not me saying it, but the people who studied, like Rabbi Unterman, the late Rabbi Unterman, who was the guy who excommunicated Henry Kissinger and explained the dangers of the Sabbatean Frankist in the modern era. And at the same time, we have the Jesuits. We have Pope Leo, who is a pope who is supposed to be Christian. And in reality, he didn't really say much about what happened in that Catholic school with that transgender. That transgender thing wasn't mentioned. He simply mentioned the fact there were 2 children who died. And of course, everything is to blame on the guns. The guns. The Second Amendment is to blame for all the problems of the United States of America. When we know, and this is something that I wrote also in volume 11, that since the 1950s, parallel to MK Ultra, we had the birth of all those antidepressants that are also a big problem today for the youth. And Charlie Kirk was really a guy who was bringing the natural, the conservative values back to people who are really confused, who when they get some, if in California a child is confused about his sexual identity, is playing with a doll instead of soldiers at 8 or 9 years old, they would basically castrate him and make him change his sex without even the consent of his parents.
Crazy.
And this is something that Charlie Kirk was against, of course. Charlie Kirk debated Newsom. He debated him on that idiotic podcast that Newsom has created. But Charlie Kirk wrote very clearly that Newsom should apologize for failing to deport illegals from California, creating all this decline in the cities that are looking worse and worse each day, apologize for bankrupting this state of California. This is what Charlie Kirk said, not me. Charlie Kirk said that Newsom should apologize for allowing men in girls' locker room and sports. Charlie Kirk says that Newsom should have apologized to those who lost their homes in Los Angeles fires, because nowadays that situation has not really been solved in any way, shape, or form. And Charlie Kirk also said that Newsom should apologize for refusing to address the housing crisis in California, which is one of the worst in decades. And of course, Charlie Kirk asked Newsom to apologize for ruining this great and beautiful state, the great state of California. Will the Californians realize this? Probably not. Probably not, because here the Mexicans are taking over the show. Because if we see the Baptist or whatever Methodist church with the black preachers condemning a guy who is being killed, even if that happens in other states, but here in California, there is, unfortunately, a bunch of people who think that, maybe Newsom can be the solution. When Newsom in reality has ruined the state, and if he becomes president of the United States, God forbids in the future, he will completely ruin the whole of the United States. And so when I saw what was happening in Los Angeles during the riots and stuff that happened recently because of ICE, who were the activists who were fomenting them? Jesuits. Mm-hmm. People in this book, people who have created basically this very clever way of manipulating the immigrant. They have their own NGOs, they bring them here, then they, of course, work for the gangs, and then once they have finished their career in the gangs, they clean them up with a project so they can be then put back into society as respectable citizens. Even the worst scumbags who has killed 20 or 30 people, who has brought drugs and done the worst crimes, the Jesuits have created an organization in Los Angeles that serves as a filter to re-inject these people in our society. This is sick. The whole thing is sick. I mean, and of course, I mean, I think that is pretty clear here. You know, when I see the phrase "Bella Ciao," I see what I escaped in Europe. Europe at the moment is a hellhole, is a place that doesn't have any future. It's, you know, kind of like it's in between America, China, and Russia. What are we going to do with this European Union? You know, you have Ursula von der Leyen, whose father was a Nazi apologist who worked for the European community. The father of Ursula von der Leyen was a guy who used every moment he could. And you can go and find this information. It's not secret information. Just go on the Wikipedia. He was a Nazi apologist. He actually said that they did great things. So it's insane how the Fourth Reich, you remember I talked about the Fourth Reich in volume 7 of my Confessions, because it's all connected, you know, then with Klaus Schwab, with the Great Reset, with Davos, with the Bilderberg Club. I explain in this book, volume 12, as you know, how the Bilderberg Club was created after the war by a Jesuit disciple who was also Sabbatean Frankist, who went to Rome to become a Jesuit but didn't feel he wanted to go further in taking the Jesuit vow, so he took directly what I call the fifth vow. And people of the fifth vow are people like Governor Newsom. Where did Newsom go to school? The Jesuits.
Wow.
And people like Nancy Pelosi, who they worked for facilitating the deal between the Vatican and China. The Jesuits, she worked for the Jesuits, Nancy Pelosi. So, I mean, it's like the Jesuits are known to have 3 vows and a 4th vow of complete obedience to the Pope. Then you have people outside of the order who take the 5th vow. They are like the secret agents of the Jesuits who don't formally belong to the order, but belong to the order in a secret way, like, for example, Governor Newsom. And so the fact, how you identify a possible candidate to a 5th vow of the Jesuits? Well, it's very simple. Usually they are former seminarians. They have gone to a Jesuit school. We know that the Jesuits have a lot of influence in the school system. Here in California, they told me, and this is not me who said it, by Professor Amamoto, who I often go to. I don't know if you know him. I often go to his show as a guest, and he was a professor here for many years in Southern California. He told me, Leo, it's not only the Jesuit universities, you know, like Georgetown, whatever, the one for them, the ones you know. Here in California, they control every single university. So when you tell me, and you said that a few moments ago at the beginning of this interview, we have a problem with the education in the university. Who do you think is educating them this way?
Jesuits.
They are the ones who are pushing all this perversion, all this sick ideology, and they are the ones who should be stopped. But nobody's going to stop them because they're way too powerful. Because the only way to stop them would be, like I suggested in my latest book, if we simply, we declare them a bunch of terrorists, kick them out of the United States, and like it happened because this happened in the 1770s and 1760s and 1750s. At the time, the Portuguese and Spanish empires, which, as you know, at the time were very powerful, identified the problem in the Jesuit order. So at the end, they started to expel them from their countries, even from South America, where they were very powerful. And at the end, they went to the Pope and said, either you expel them or we're going to give up on Catholicism altogether. So the Pope was forced to make an official document kicking them out of the Vatican, and they were kicked out of the Vatican until they came back only a few decades later. Did they get weaker? No, unfortunately not. They became even stronger because they got kicked out of the Vatican, and then they went under the protection of the Empress of Russia. They actually stayed in certain territories, which were like now the territories that you find like Poland, Lithuania, and these territories, the Jesuit presence was still very strong. The Russians basically protected them. Even if they were Orthodox, they didn't care about. The Empress simply said, okay, you give me a nomination for the general and I make a general Russian and I'm happy with that. And so she was happy with the general of the Jesuits who was a Russian. And so that's it. It was all solved. But the interesting thing about all this is that most of the problems of today's world emanate from a specific area of the world. Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, and that part of Russia, because that was all Russia back in the days, apart from those areas, are very important historically, Michael. And they're very important historically because, of course, Jacob Franco was born in Ukraine. Madame Blavatsky was born in Ukraine. There will not exist today modern Satanism without those areas in which we have this really sick kind of twisted Jesuits, Sabbatean Frankists, and all those mixed in together. Where do you think that Jeffrey Epstein comes from? Where do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell come from? Yeah. Where do you think all these people come from? It's unfortunately, one doesn't want to be racist, but then you have to understand why is all coming from this area. What's happening there that is so? Why we have Zelensky, who is a guy who is born talking Russian, who now talks Ukraine and wages war against Russia and wants to bankrupt the whole of the world because Europe going after him is going to become bankrupt. But at the same time, Europe might use Ukraine as a solution, like I said, in regards to Great Britain. Great Britain and the United Kingdom has a big problem. But the moment in which the problem is going to get to level now, for example, after Tommy Robinson's success on Saturday, the level might be at, 8. But let it become 10. That the Tommy Robinson aficionados start rioting across England. Well, the Prime Minister with the king is here to announce you that we are in war with Russia and we will have to send all of you to war and back to the trenches, because every time there is a problem, we have a war for you. Just to send out all the...
Yeah.
It seems to
Everything
work.
else goes to shit. They send us to war.
Yeah.
We saw like not just in the UK, but we saw in France, we saw in Australia, New Zealand, even South Korea. We saw, pretty much pushback against the system. Do you think this is going to gather speed, or do you think they're just going to push back?
I mean, when you see, for example, the South Koreans saying we are Charlie Kirk. Right. When you see the South Koreans rebelling against the leftist of South Korea, or we see, for example, more and more influence from North Korea into South Korea, and the Americans start to lose their influence in a place where, strategically they have their bases and it's very important. Well, in that case, I'm sure that Kim Jong-un, hi Kim, can you please shoot a couple of those missiles to create a little bit of tension? I mean, if Kim Jong-un and the family of Kim Jong-un, the father, the grandfather, and the whole dynasty has been kept there in that strategic position after a war which saw the death of many Americans in Korea and the sacrifice of many Americans, it is because nowadays it is strategically important to have him as a cushion between Russia, China. And Russia and China are, of course, the great players also in this game. So I think that we are always in a new world order that is, manifesting now with maybe new players, but is always an order. And so if we're going from America to the Sino-Russian New World Order, because when people, for example, the Chinese a few weeks ago said in Beijing, we want a multipolar world order. That's BS. Come on. The Chinese multipolar is not a multipolar. It's a Chinese-led new world order together with Russia, and it's a Sino-Russian world order. All those people, the fact that they promoted as a multipolar world order, saying, oh, America is not the one that can lead this new world order anymore. We have to have a multipolar. Do you believe in that, Michael? Do you believe? I mean, the Chinese are building the army of the Antichrist as we speak. They are building an army of robots in each of the Chinese households, where Cyber Satan, and I wrote 3 books that, including volume 9, but also volume 7 and volume 6, on the subject of Cyber Satan. Now, we are going, regardless of what is happening now, the biggest transformation for mankind is to do with artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, this guy, for example, here in this article, I showed how the Italian prime minister got upset because, imagine, the 2 university organizations in Italy have posted something against Charlie Kirk after he died, saying -1, and saying for those who know, because they are brainwashed. But this brainwashing, this programming of this new woke transsexual assassins or brainwashed by transsexual, are we sure that all this is not really directed by the AI? They talk about, we have to investigate now Discord, this, that, and all the other. But how easy is today for ChatGPT-4 to program an assassin? Because we have evidence that ChatGPT-4 has led to the death of people, but maybe people like this Tyler Robinson were brainwashed online. by bots, because we don't know how realistic you are talking with somebody on Discord or you're talking with somebody online, but is he a bot or is he a real person? And so all this in regards to the ideology, of course, the Sikh ideology, the element of Bella Ciao.
And sticking with that Sikh ideology is the German Mauser, which was a World War I, World War II German Nazi weapon. So, they're sticking to that narrative.
Absolutely. It goes very well with that narrative, no? It's a precision gun that, in this case, was used to a diabolical effect. I mean, one single, and the guy was definitely very disciplined in the way he operated. But why he was so disciplined? Because now we see he was, somebody who was playing day and night with games that, basically video games that are programming these assassins. Because the moment in which you become a good fighter on one of these video games and you are ready, then they come inside, one of those chat rooms on Discord and they say, yes, you should do it. Yes, go for it. And also catch a fascist and write down also Bella Ciao and write down also something because of the transgenders who we know that both Pete Hegseth and Trump have been very much against the presence of transsexual, transgenders, drag queens within the military. And this is happened recently. It didn't happen a year ago. It happened in the last month. If you go and see the timeline, no? And then suddenly we have Charlie Kirk being killed after a question that regards the trans mass shooters. So it is, of course, now at the moment, of course, it is a moment in which everything is being investigated. But it seems like for the terrorism of the future, we will have on one side the Muslims like the ones who yesterday put 3 bombs under a van of Fox News.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fortunately, it didn't work. The bombs didn't work. It would have been a real tragedy. But this, and we go and see today on the news, almost nothing about it.
Yeah.
Nothing about the fact that these are Muslims. So you have,
so it sounds like the Jesuits are controlling the media, like you said, they control everything. So that's funny.
Absolutely. But the interesting thing here is that they are choosing categories that are almost untouchable. I mean, me and you can't talk badly about the transgender or the Islamic category because we are talking about minorities which are overly protected.
Right.
So we have to be very careful how we mention them. Otherwise, they come and they say, Michael Jacob hate speech or Leo Zagami hate speech.
Yep.
And so you see that this is kind of very frightening that because in the future, the censorship might grow even more and become, like we saw what happened during the pandemic. Today, after the election of Donald J. Trump, we are capable of talking freely. The algorithms are not present anymore. So we can talk freely about the vaccines. We can talk freely about the reason for this pandemic, the origins of it, and you will not be notified by the algorithm at the end of your show with a warning or your video being removed. But this might happen for other things, no? So we are always in that kind of position. And it's very sad that we are in a positions like this, that we have to fear of being deplatformed, fear of being censored, and losing also a way for us to make our living.
Yeah. So this is Pambandi. There's free speech and then there's hate speech. We will absolutely go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech. And then you have Charlie Kirk posted, this was back in 5/2/24. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech. And all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free.
I want to share with you an article also in regards to what I said earlier. I'm going to put it on your thing so you can share it from my... This is what happened yesterday, or the day before, actually. Under the news media vehicle, that was Fox, near campus where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And nobody's talking about it.
Wow.
And the guys are Muslims. So
another one of the LGBTQ plus.
No, it's I tell you,
the Muslim. Now you said it early in the show,
Yeah.
and I thought it was very perfect. I never heard you say that, but it really resonated with me. And you said that they take these extremist groups like this because they're easily controllable. I was like, nailed it.
Yeah, no, it is, you know, and plus it doesn't matter if these groups ideologically are at the opposites, because in the end we have seen how paradoxical the situation is when you have people marching at the Pride with Gaza talking about free Palestine, when we know that in the Muslim world they don't accept the LGBTQ in any shape or form, and that so it doesn't really make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. But these minorities, because like I said a moment ago, they are overly protected, they become the ideal candidates for becoming the mercenaries of the New World Order. They are untouchable.
Yep.
You can't criticize them.
That way they can infiltrate. That's good.
Yeah. So we are in a very bad place at the moment as conservatives, as people who are God-fearing people who want to actually continue to raise our families in a traditional way. Because in one way we see that we have the Muslims who are only accepting their own as the traditionals of the situation. But on the other side, you have these guys with this woke extremist ideology who are basically pushing all this, the gender transitioning people from when they are kids, and also the fact that they can adopt children. These people can adopt children. Let's not forget that. There is transgenders that can adopt children. Children will grow up mentally confused, to say the least. Because I mean, it becomes really confusing then for a child who is growing. And on top of this, the next level of because the transgender thing is leading somewhere else, and I explain this in my book. It's leading towards transhumanism. Transhumanism, meaning that soon people will start transforming their bodies, adding elements that are exterior, no? And then we will have a transformation of the human being in something completely different. You will be integrating the machine. And then you will have the robot brothels. You will have the cyber prostitution that is completely another level of insanity, in which you have, people who will be drawn to go with the robots or with the transhumans, who are kind of like a mix of, because let's not forget another detail in this whole
show, Westworld, the movie and series. Yeah.
No, but let's not forget this guy who was with Tyler Robinson. It's not only a transgender; it's a furry transgender, somebody who dresses up as an animal.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God.
Uh,
That's the plus side, I guess. Wow.
No, that is very plus, yes, definitely. Now we are going into uncharted territory because
Totally. Wow.
dressing up as animal.
Next level. Keep going. Let's see how far we go with this. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then, you're going to start inserting elements in your body that are external, and people are going to start transforming themselves in these animals. I'm really sorry for the people that come after us. In the year 2060, they must probably they go around in the major cities, and there is monsters going around, things that we can't call human beings. But beware of not calling them human beings, because they are a minority protected, and you will lose everything you ever had if you even mention them. Oh, you're a racist. The guy's a fairy. He's dressing up. He's half, I don't know what, and he's transhuman, and he has, maybe a head with a thing coming out like that, and another thing coming out like. But you have to accept it in the name of inclusivity. And so, I mean, at the end, it's like this society. Maybe Major Taylor Greene today wasn't so wrong when she said that we should go for a peaceful divorce in our national discourse. Meaning that at one point, if we see that, there is half of the population who wants to continue experimenting and going towards hell and the abyss of hell, well, let them go there, and we might retain what is left of our, lives in a different context by living in a separate state. Because then that's the problem here. The union for these people is becoming a problem. Either they want to take us over and force us into their sick belief system where anything goes, but are we capable of resisting? Now, I think that the only good thing that came out of Charlie Kirk's sacrifice, because he is indeed a martyr of the cause, is that he has planted the seeds of transformation within the young people. The young people that finally say, we had enough with all these monstrosities. Yep. We want to go back to some normal, I don't even say conservative, I'm just saying common sense.
Totally.
Because it's not a question of conservative. I mean, it's called common sense.
Yes, human beings. Yes,
as human beings. So I think that is the positive thing that Charlie did, that they will always be remembered for. I'm very sad that I didn't go this year. I was invited at Turning Point USA, and friends from mutual friends of Charlie wanted me there, and they were really eager to have me there next year and to meet Charlie. I didn't manage. I didn't have this great possibility and honor, because he definitely was a person that we should honor with all our respect, also in the future. Not only now when it's just happened and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, because everyone that came up to speak, he honored them. He didn't talk them down or didn't yell at them or
the guys who actually
are wrong. He just talk common sense to them.
The guys who wanted to,
once they got common sense, they stumbled. They couldn't speak anymore. It was great.
You say it, but the crazy thing about I did maybe one conference in Arizona, and these friends of Charlie came there, and they were not white supremacist guys. They were actually Mexicans who Charlie really treated as equals, and they said, we never saw any racism from Charlie Kirk.
Never. Yep.
With blacks, with Mexicans, with anybody. So, when you are creating this demonic fake reality of, he was a white racist supremacist, this, that, and all the other, it's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable for his memory. And we have seen also what happened with that 19-year-old who wore the same T-shirt as Tyler Robinson, who went and trashed the memorial in front of Turning Point USA. And one wonders if this T-shirt is part of a network.
Yeah, definitely. I believe it is.
Mm-hmm. And what about all these transgenders who are behind it, who apparently had previous knowledge in chat rooms on the internet? And I mean, it is like, I mean, it's maybe too early to say that we can talk about a transgender terrorist cell, but it's very highly suspicious. And we have to pray that some sanity comes out of all this insanity, because Charlie was a guy who went into the university and dialogued with these people. He wasn't going there with a gun pointed at these people saying, you are different and you are sick in your head. He was actually challenging them intellectually, asking them, why do you do it?
Critical thinking, yeah.
Saying simply,
school.
I remember one thing he said that stuck to me once. He was in a university. I remember seeing the video. He said, one transgender went to him and he said, but do you think if I wear a sombrero and I talk with a Mexican accent, I will become Mexican? Well, dressing up as a woman doesn't make you a woman. I thought, the way also he brought a little bit of sense of humor into the discourse. It wasn't so heavy. It wasn't so... Yeah. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for me to find maybe a successor to his legacy.
I mean, who would want to step up? I mean, looks like they're going to just start taking people out now. So that's kind of a big threat. A lot of people have, ourselves included. So
absolutely, it's a big threat. It's a big risk. And I tell you this from my own experience when I was, let's say, politically exposed in Italy. I mean, it is a danger for you, for your family. And in the end, I was forced into leaving Italy, as you know, because, I didn't want my family, my wife, or my family back in Italy to be further exposed to these threats. So in the end, it's a very courageous thing to do, but at the same time, you can do it if you have the possibility of employing your own security. When the police told me they couldn't give me protection, and these are people who I knew in the police,
Yeah.
And they said, Leo, but we can't give you protection. Well, I said, okay, fine. And I have to leave. It's not. I can't afford a security detail 24 hours a day. It's a very expensive thing. And I'm sure that nowadays it's going to be also influencing the political discourse, because if you candidate yourself to go to Congress, now you do it with the wrong party, which is basically the Republican Party in the eyes of these people, you will have to be protected. I mean, I'm very worried for Major Taylor Greene at the moment. I think that amongst all the politicians that they are at the moment, she is the more exposed. And I tell you also why. Because she's been very open about the Epstein case and about supporting the girls who went there in front of, who went to talk to Congress and stuff. She was very, very adamant that she will take no criticism even from her own party or from the president who she knows. She was just so... I'm a little bit scared for Major Taylor Greene because she needs to have a 24-hour security protection detail that can protect her, for sure.
Definitely.
So let's see what happens. I mean
Charlie Kirk had a protective detail. That didn't work out so good. So
it didn't work out. And I tell you one thing that I was very surprised. Now, when I collaborated and I was present here in Coachella with Trump for his speech, he did. It was over 100,000 people. That happened after the assassination attempt of Butler, Pennsylvania, and they had this cord up in the air for like 150 meters with a special drone with 4 cameras. It was So it was a drone that was not moving because it was anchored to the ground. And I was surprised that a security detail like the one of Charlie Kirk didn't have any drones. Because with a drone, you could have got that guy immediately.
Well, it looked like somebody showed a picture. It looked like there was a drone. But I've been to some of these events, security and so forth, and they actually put out an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, so that drones can't fly over a certain area.
Yeah, but I
But the one that you're talking about was wired. It could do that.
Yes.
But they'll put up an EMP cordon around events. So we did that when I did work concerts and so forth, outdoor concerts. Yeah.
But nowadays, of course, with this kind of technology at disposal, the fact that the guy, after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, can go and stand there in the same way and shoot at somebody, I mean, in the same, almost the identical, I mean, if Trump just didn't turn around, he would have been got in the neck in the same way, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's probably traumatic for Trump himself, but then we have to understand here, Charlie Kirk's death, is it a death that has served the purpose for the system? And that is a very sad realization when you see that at the moment it has kind of completely changed the discourse at a national level.
Sure.
And then also we need to understand where we want to go from here. I mean, as a nation, if this battle of words of the internet definitely, the social networks have amplified people's thoughts. This is the first time in human history that we have this kind of thing, happening. We have basically everybody with a platform today to say basically whatever they want. And so it creates, within the families, even people, like, for example, we have so many families that have been broken down by this situation, like people not invited for Thanksgiving because they support Donald J. Trump, or, and other people maybe for other reasons, everything becomes definitely amplified. It's not anymore what the kind of world we used to live in. But at the moment, I think that a civil war is still not realistic, though there is a lot of talk of it. There is a lot of talk of it. Polymarket gives the civil war only 3%, which is not a very high percentage. And we know the Polymarket always gets it. They got it for the Trump presidency.
99% of the time, I would say.
So 3% still means that we can be a little bit tranquil.
Yep.
However, it's true that we are heading into that direction, and that, it's like we see Charlie Kirk as a turning point. He actually, the name he gave to his organization really reflects now what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is here, either we go towards what Charlie wanted, which is the dialogue of the opposites, something that every university should have, because universities have always been, since the beginning, places where people were encouraged to give their own ideas and dialogue with others who have different ideas. But when universities, under the present Jesuit mafia, which I denounce in volume 12, only want you to embrace one ideology, it becomes very difficult then and so I think that the 36,000 requests for new chapters for Turning Point, the fact that the young people we have seen in the last few days praying for Charlie, being more involved in politics in a positive way, maybe his sacrifice somehow will be leading to something positive for the newer generations. I hope that, Michael. I don't know how you view it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's a good. There's, and this is a great way, to end this on a positive note. That yes, we can, see this in a positive light, because it is moving in a positive light. All the demonstrations we've seen around the world, all the new chapters that are being requested to be opened. So the dialogue is going to start to move in a better direction. I think we're going to see some good things from this.
Absolutely. It's sad, though, that, for example, the mayor of LA has refused to fly the flags half-staff.
Yeah. Same thing in New Jersey and New York. They refuse to fly half-staff too.
And who are these people? They are Jesuit products. They are communists, Marxists. They are people who have this sick ideology in their minds. And so we have, like I said, positive things coming out of it. But I think it's for the young people who are not so brainwashed, who haven't had like decades of this brainwashing, to maybe change things and follow the dialogue and the example of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me on, because I think that today our conversation has brought people to the realization that we still have to find common ground, even with the people who don't think in the same way. I mean, I know that the Democratic Party of 30 or 40 years ago is not the Democratic Party of today. I know that the people, though, who have transformed the Democratic Party are those people who, unfortunately, were the extremists from the end of the 1960s onwards, from the Black Panthers to the Marxists of the worst kind, to the people who, of course, embraced Bella Ciao, who we today discussed at the opening of the show, this song that they claim was used to sing against fascism in Italy and oppose Benito Mussolini. Complete artificial construct, complete lies. But that's what often happens in this situation. The truth in a war, even in a war of words, seems to be the first victim of the whole discourse. So let's bring back the truth, the facts in all this. And that's the main way we can honor Charlie. Thank you so much, guys. God bless you all. And God bless your great work, Michael.
You too. And leozagami.com, everyone, to check out his incredible books and his information. This was just a little piece of it, so definitely go over there and check that out. Thanks a lot, Leo.
Thank you.